Welcome to the WalterFootball.com podcast. This is episode 336. We're doing our week one NFL picks against the spread for the 2021 season. Jacob, this is our third year together. It's hard to believe. Last year, we had a joint entry in the Super Contest. We tied for 84th place. So it was a good finish. I expect that we're going to do better this year. So, I'm looking forward to this. Jacob Kamaker, of course, from the Sporting News. Jacob, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's hard to believe this is year 3, right? It feels like it was just like yesterday that you asked me to be on this podcast. But yeah, I'm psyched to be going into year 3. I'm psyched the season's here. And yeah, I feel like we're going to be in good shape to compete, hopefully, for a top 10 spot in the Super Contest. Hopefully the number 1 overall spot if we can do well. And I like this week 1 game slate. We've had a lot of time to think about it, which has been helpful. But I think we're going to have some pretty strong agreements on some of the better matchups of the week. So looking forward to getting into this. I'm just glad the season's back.
I know it was. It felt like a long summer, but then again, it like feels like it went by quickly. It's so weird how it just like both things were true. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the season for sure. We talked about these games a little earlier, like a couple weeks ago, and my opinions have changed a lot. But I agree. I think we'll agree for the most part, but we'll probably disagree on a couple of games for sure. So before we begin, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. We have a link in the description to our merch store, so check that out. Any of that would be great to help support the show. But yeah, let's get right to it. It's the Cowboys and the Buccaneers to start off the season on Thursday night. This line opened at Buccaneers -6.5, and kind of a blink of an eye, it went up to 7.5, and earlier a couple hours ago, it went up to 8. So who do you like in this game?
Yeah, I like the Buccaneers in this one a lot. I actually locked this in at Bucks -7 just before the Zach Martin news broke. Zach Martin's going to miss the game because he's on the COVID list. In all likelihood, there's a very, very slight chance that he could return for this game. But between him being out, Lael Collins at the time that I bet this at -7, it was uncertain whether he'd play. He practiced on Monday. I didn't catch his practice status today. But I don't know if
he's fully practiced, yeah.
Fully practiced again. Okay, so he's probably going to play, but he may not be 100%. So I just look at that offensive line and I worry, like without Zach Martin, Ezekiel Elliott, the running game has been worse. Dak Prescott, when he's not protected, he's a little bit worse. And where they're both on the same side of the line too, like, Martin's not there. So if Collins isn't 100%, he doesn't have Zach Martin, their best offensive lineman, to support him. So I'm not a fan of that. And you just look at Tampa Bay, like they have unprecedented continuity. They're literally bringing back all of their starters. There's no reason that they shouldn't be ready to play and play well like they did in the Super Bowl. I don't expect a Super Bowl hangover with this team in this circumstance because they're going to be at home playing in front of the biggest crowd they've seen since the Super Bowl, which was the biggest crowd they had of the season. That was only a third of Raymond James Stadium filled. So I think they're going to be pretty pumped up and energized for this. And Tom Brady just doesn't take games off. He's the one guy that you would never worry about his team's having a Super Bowl hangover. So I think that, the Cowboys, maybe they could score a garbage touchdown late to maybe cut into this spread. So there's a little bit of concern there. But generally speaking, I like the Buccaneers a lot here. I'm going to be on them for 2 to 3 units. Again, I already locked in at -7. I think for 2 units, I might put another one on it if it stays at -8. But I just don't think that their defense, either the Cowboys defense, I don't think it's good enough yet to contain this Bucks passing offense. Like this Bucks offense is going to be really good.
Yeah, so we're going to be in agreement to start the season, which is a good sign. I'm jealous that you were able to get the Buccaneers -7. I guess I wasn't quick enough to do that. I should have done it as soon as I saw the Zach Martin news. I was kind of like waiting on Lyle Collins, which is kind of still waiting on it. Like I might as well at this point because this line's already 8. I don't see it going to 10. I think they would risk the sportsbooks would risk getting middle there, so I don't think they would do that. I could see this line going to maybe 9, but 8 and 9 is not a big difference. Yeah, I'm on the Buccaneers as well. That offensive line for the Cowboys is going to be a big problem against Tampa's elite defensive line. We saw what they did to the Chiefs. Now, granted, the Chiefs had so many injuries, but with the Cowboys, like Zach Martin's out and Collins, if he's not 100%, that's going to be a big problem. The Cowboys won't be able to rely on Ezekiel Elliott to run the ball because Tampa has a great run defense. So I think that Tampa should win this game easily, win this game by double digits. I'm not concerned about the backdoor cover. Something I learned how to do last year, late in the year, was kind of like determine which teams were likely to get backdoor covered. It had to do with like the big favorites having lots of injuries at like specific positions, and the Buccaneers don't have any injuries right now. Not that I saw. I know Antonio Brown didn't practice today, so that's like a minor worry. I don't know if that's significant at all. Like he might come back to practice. He might play in this game. I would imagine he would. But yeah, that's the only injury concern. And even if he's out, I still think Tampa covers. So I'll probably be on the Buccaneers like you for 2 or 3 units, probably 2 units. If Collins is out, it might even be for 3 or 4 units. So definitely going to look for that. But I expect Collins to play, but not at 100%. So it's going to be like 2 units or so.
Yeah, and regarding Antonio Brown, I don't know what to make of that injury yet because he practiced, I think, and was listed as, I don't remember if he was full practice on Monday or not, but he was listed with the knee injury. But yeah, he was full, and then he went to being off today. So I kind of think it might just be a veteran day off, the type of maintenance thing that they like to do. Because I know Chris Godwin was limited today as well, so maybe Bruce Arians just trying to keep his guys fresh. But yeah, that'll be one thing to watch is the Antonio Brown situation. It doesn't change my opinion of this game. But that's more something to watch if you're a fantasy owner of Antonio Brown in many leagues like I am. So for DFS purposes, I'll be looking at that closely.
Yeah, I think I have Brown in a bunch of my leagues. So yeah, I agree. And I like we saw the veteran rest designation for some of the guys like Jason Pierre-Paul, Rob Gronkowski, maybe a couple others. But for Brown, it said something else, and I thought that was curious. But I think he plays, but we'll see. I guess you never know. Let's go to the Sunday games. The first one on the slate is the Steelers at the Bills. This line opened up, but the Bills -6. It's up to 6.5. So it sounds like maybe the line moved because TJ Watt may not play in this game. So who do you like here?
Yeah, I like the Bills here. I'm not super into betting this one just because the Steelers do have a great defense. And Ben Roethlisberger looked better than I think anyone thought he was going to in the preseason. But, that's still not enough for me to be willing to fade the Bills. Like the Bills, they have a really good defense. They have a really great offense. They just have a complete team right now. One of their weaknesses last year was their defensive line wasn't great against the run and needed some more pass rush. They had a lot of quality role players, but they needed more talent and depth, and I think they did a good job of addressing that. So I think that they're going to be well positioned to get some pressure on Ben Roethlisberger. And that leads me to my number one concern with the Steelers. Their offensive line is not in good shape at all. They're basically breaking in an entirely new starting unit this year. Chuks Okorafor, I think, is the only guy who may have started last year that's returning. The other 4 linemen are all pretty much brand new. Kevin Dotson was on the team, so was I think J.C. Hassenauer. But Dotson was good in limited action, but he wasn't a full-time starter, and Hassenauer was not good at center. So Kendrick Green may overtake him if he hasn't already. But either way, I think they're going to have a lot of trouble blocking for Najee Harris. It's going to be really hard for him to get going. We saw the Steelers running backs struggle a lot last year. They could basically not run the ball. Ben Roethlisberger couldn't throw the ball deep, so all they could do was throw short passes. Teams caught on to that, and that's why down the stretch they went 1-5.
I think Jacob cut out. Either he cut out or I did. So are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
See, yeah, you cut out for a second. So
sorry, that's my bad. Probably. I'm going to assume that someone hit the router or something. But yeah, the Steelers went 1-5 down the stretch last year because they could basically only throw short passes. So if the Bills can get them in that situation again, their defense will be opportunistic and will be in good shape. So I like the Bills in this one. I'm not going to bet it heavily. I might put a unit on it just because, if the Steelers defense comes to play, they will be able to slow down the Bills. But even that unit's different, and their cornerback depth is not the same as it once was. So I do have concerns there, and who knows what's happening with TJ Watt. I assume he'll play, but if the holdout continues, that could be a problem for them.
Yeah, I saw that he was in doubt for this game, which kind of shocked me. I assumed that he was going to play because, despite the holdout, but if he's in doubt, that's pretty huge. The Steelers already lost Bud Dupree in the offseason, and then Stephon Tuitt's on on the pup list, I believe. So they're not going to have three of those guys that they had last year from their front seven rushing the passer, which is a big deal because Josh Allen, like you really need to put pressure on Josh Allen, who's just going to keep getting better. He has a great receiving core. His offensive line's healthy, unlike for most of last season. So I expect the Bills offense to do basically whatever they want. I mean, the Steelers also lost a couple of cornerbacks this offseason. So I think Buffalo's offense can be great in this game. And then you look at the Pittsburgh offense. If they had the offensive line from last year, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But you mentioned it. I mean, their blocking is a concern. Zach Banner's out, so they're going to have to start two rookies on the offensive line. And the Bills made some good upgrades. They got Gregory Rousseau, who looked good in the preseason. A couple other young guys that they have on the roster I expect will be better this year. So I think the Bills are the play here. I'm not excited about this game. I don't think there's going to be a backdoor cover, but Ben Roethlisberger tends to put up a ton of garbage points late in the game. Remember that playoff game against the Browns where he just went nuts in the second half and nearly covered the spread almost. So I think that could, or maybe not cover the spread, but like almost won the game. But still something like that could happen. I'd be a little bit concerned. Like I said, I don't think there's going to be backdoor cover unless there are some injuries we don't know about with the Bills. If TJ Watt's out, I'm going to bet the Bills. If TJ Watt plays, probably will stay away, but I'm going to be on Buffalo for office pool purposes.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go with this game because, like, as much as I want to bet Buffalo, and I will bet them a lot this season, this just isn't the best matchup and number for them this early in the season. Like, if they start slow in this game, the Steelers could keep them, or just stay within an arm's reach. Like, and we saw last year before, I think Ben Roethlisberger threw a pick six to Teron Johnson in this matchup. It was like pretty level throughout the entire first half. Then that kind of swung the game and the Bills won by 11, I believe. So, if that doesn't happen, then the Bills might win a field goal game here. So I agree. I think office pool purposes or maybe a 1-unit bet if TJ Watt's out would be the way to go, or maybe a little more.
Yeah, to it on IR, not the pup list, but still he's going to be out for this game regardless. So the next game is the Jets at the Panthers, much less exciting. The Panthers open up -4 up to 5.5. There's a lot of public action on the Panthers in this game. So are you with the public here?
I am going to be on the Jets here right now. I'm a little bit afraid of the Panthers. I do not get the love for them right now, at least. I can understand like their roster is good, but if you look at the quarterback position, Sam Darnold is very, very scary. He could improve greatly away from Adam Gase. We've seen that happen before. I think both you and I during this offseason thought that might be a possibility. But we just don't know. We saw him play one preseason game and the numbers were decent, but the performance itself was just kind of meh. So I'm kind of worried about how he's going to do against the Jets. This is kind of a pressure spot for him. So I don't know why the Panthers are being favored by this much. And again, I get it. He has good weapons, but their defense, that's a projection. They have a lot of young talent, so they're going to have to take a step forward in order to live up to expectations. And then Darnold's offensive line is a mess. Like, I don't know what they're going to be doing up front outside of Taylor Moton. That whole unit could be a big problem. And we've seen when Darnold's under pressure, as he was often in New York, that could be a problem for him. That can force him into mistakes and force him to see ghosts. So I'm definitely worried about that. And then on the other side of the ball for the Jets, I love Robert Saleh, first of all. I think he's going to have his team very motivated. And I think that this team is just a lot better than what we saw from the Jets last year. Zach Wilson looked solid in the preseason. I know you can't bank on that for rookie quarterbacks, but listen to this stat. Rookie quarterbacks the last 2 years in their first starter, 18-5 against the spread. And I know that like trends aren't all like that's a pretty small sample size. Like if you go back further, it might be different, but that's like kind of it surprised me. So Wilson should have a chance to cover here. I think the Jets are going to be better on offense. They have more weapons. They have better blocking. And then I know their defense is not good, but I think Saleh is going to elevate their play a little bit there. And they have some good pass rush talent, I think. Or at least I'm hoping that they will, because I think Quinn and Williams, Sheldon Rankin, Shaq Lawson all, have some upside. So, yeah, at the end of the day, I think this is just too many points to give Sam Darnold in his first start, even against a team like the Jets. So I'm gonna be on the Jets here. And one more pretty crazy stat. The Jets have started a rookie quarterback week 1, I think 4 times, and every time the rookie quarterback has won. So Wilson as an underdog, history says he's 100% chance to win this game.
Those are some awesome stats. I never thought that. Well, first of all, 18-5 against the spread for the last 23 for rookie quarterbacks. I mean, that's something else. But yeah, the Jets winning every time rookie quarterback plays. That's insane. Yeah, I'm with you on the Jets. Did you ever imagine last year when we watched Sam Darnold lose game after game that he would be favored by almost a touchdown in the first game of 2021? And it's not like he has a great roster around him. It's not like he went to, for example, like the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes is out and they're playing a bad opponent and they're favored by this many. Then you can understand that. But the Panthers they're an okay roster, I guess. Like they have some good players. But I have concern about their offensive line for sure. They're going to be starting Cam Irving on left tackle. That just seems like such a disaster. I know that they Greg Little there before they traded him. Now they have Irving starting. It just seems like the Browns going with Greg Robinson from a couple of years ago. It's like, how do you make that decision? Like going with Irving as your left tackle. I don't like it at all. So like, if you look at this game, I think the Jets have the better quarterback with Zach Wilson. We don't know that for sure, but Wilson looked better than Darnold did in the preseason. Darnold, as you said, struggled against the Pittsburgh backups. I think the Jets defensive line wins easily against Carolina's offensive line. And then the Jets offensive line versus Carolina's defensive line, I think it's kind of a wash. Like Carolina has some great edge rushers, but the Jets have good tackles. So I think the Jets should be able to protect well. So I think overall, I think this game is kind of like probably evenly matched. Like maybe you could say the Panthers a little bit better because of Christian McCaffrey. But the Jets have a good run defense. So I think they should be able to limit McCaffrey on the ground. I think McCaffrey is going to have a big game as a receiver out of the backfield. But these two teams are too close for one team to be favored by 5.5. So, yeah, I'm going to be on the Jets with you.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you broke it down position by position, probably the Panthers have a slight edge because I think they have better overall players on defense and then the Christian McCaffrey advantage at running back because I don't know what the Jets are doing because they have Michael Carter, LaMichael Pirine, and Tevin Coleman there. But, that's not enough to be a 5.5-point favorite. And I think the coaching is an equalizer here, too. I've never been a big Matt Rule guy. I wasn't, super sold on that hiring at the NFL level. But I love Robert Saleh. So I know Saleh's unproven compared to Rule, but I think there's a good chance that if Saleh's style and ability to motivate players like we saw in the 49ers can carry over to this new job, I think he could have a very positive impact on this game. Whereas I don't think Matt Rule has as much of an impact, especially because he's an offensive minded coach with a, not great looking quarterback situation. So yeah, I think the Jets are the move here. They're going to be one of my, probably not something I'm going to bet heavily on, but I will consider them as a potential money line bet depending on how high this spread gets, just because I do think that this is a lot more equal than people are giving it credit for.
Yeah, so speaking of Saleh, that's the one concern I have, not Saleh specifically, but the fact that this is his first game going against an experienced coach. Now, this was a huge deal last year because it's such a chaotic offseason. I don't think this was a normal offseason, but still, it wasn't as crazy as it was last year. But then I thought to myself, I'm like, would I rather, have Adam Gase with experience or Saleh with no experience? And I was like, yeah, I'd rather have Saleh. So, yeah, I imagine you would as well.
Yeah, I would too. And a fun fact, again, that I earthed up in my research today, last 20 NFL coaching changes. So coaches coaching their first game with a new team. This includes veteran coaches. Last 20, they've averaged 17.1 points per game. So that would be a no check on the Saleh report card. But in some of the other games later, that's going to come up as a good point for some of the other teams.
Okay, well, maybe 17 would be enough against Sam Darnold. We'll see. The next game is Jaguars at the Texans. This game opened up Jaguars -2.5. It's up to 3. It's kind of been going back and forth between 3 and 2.5. It's now it's actually 2.5 at the Westgate, 3 in some sports books. So who do you like in this game?
Yeah, so I actually bet this one all the way back in June when we were doing one of our preview shows, and I bet the Jaguars at -3, and I'm sticking with that for now. I'm not confident in this game at all. after witnessing what the Jaguars were like in the preseason. And I know they have Trevor Lawrence. They have a lot of offensive skill position talent. Like what they have there is the core that could be a very good team in a year or two. But that offensive line, keeping that intact was a baffling move. They weren't particularly good last year. And then in the preseason, they didn't look good until they faced the Cowboys backups, at which point Trevor Lawrence then looked terrific because he actually had time to throw. But before that, they were getting manhandled and Lawrence wasn't comfortable under pressure. So I worry about if that happens again against the Texans, that could have a negative impact on Lawrence. But at the same time, Houston's team is like, it's made up of a lot of guys that you look at and you're like, yeah, I'd be comfortable with these guys as like role players on my team. Like, yeah, I'd be fine with him as like one of my starting linebackers, like Kevin Pierre-Louis they have. And then like on the defensive front, they have like Jordan Jenkins and guys like that, guys who are like solid players. They don't have any high-end talent though. So all these guys are going to have to be the high-end talent. So I'm not sure that's going to work out well for them. And then at the same time too, like with Deshaun Watson not playing, like, do I really want to trust Tyrod Taylor? Like, not really, but the Jaguars defense is bad enough that I have to consider it. So, you know, at the end of the day, this boils down to one thing. I just don't like this game that much. I don't think either of these teams are good. I think they're both bottom 5 teams in the league. Normally, I would say that would make me want to go with the home underdog in this circumstance, just because I think they're relatively, you know, both terrible at this point. That's not a good way to put it, but it's true. And I don't trust either coach. So, I mean, I'm probably sticking with the Jaguars as a 0-unit pick for office pool purposes and what I already have on them. But I have no interest in betting this game. I wouldn't recommend betting this game. I don't want to care about this game, really, but I do. So, yeah, this is one of my least favorite plays on the slate, if not my least favorite play. If the Jaguars had a good offensive line, it would be different, but I just don't like either of these teams right now.
Yeah, me neither. And something you mentioned like a couple weeks ago, you said this kind of reminds you a little bit of Colts at Jaguars last year, where everyone thought the Colts were going to win and the Jaguars end up winning. You know, I do think like the one small difference there is that the Colts may have overlooked the Jaguars, but I still think this line is just weird where, you know, I think everyone expects the Jaguars to cover. There's a lot of public money on the Jaguars. But it's not a gimme. Like the Jaguars are not a good team. Their defense is horrible. They're obviously going to have better play from quarterback this year, but their offensive line is not very good either. They have a couple good guys up front, but not, you know, the tackles are pretty bad. So if the Texans had a good defense and if they had anyone to rush or passer, I would definitely be on Houston. And I even considered taking Houston here as a 0-unit play. But then I thought about it and I'm like, this team is so bad. Like they have no talent at all anywhere. Like they have a bunch of has-beens. Like if this were 2016 or 2017, you'd be like, oh, this is pretty good. Like they have Mark Ingram, they have Brandon Cooks, they have David Johnson. Like these guys look pretty good. But these guys aren't good anymore. Their quarterback's Tyrod Taylor. In his one start last year, he barely scored any points against the Bengals' crappy defense. So, you know, even though he has a good matchup, it's no guarantee to score many points here. So, you know, I guess I'm on the Jaguars. I know that they only look good in the one game in the preseason against the Cowboys backups, but Trevor Lawrence didn't have DJ Chark either. So I expect the Jaguars to do well, especially given that the Texans won't have their top corner, Bradley Roby. He's suspended. So I think that's a big deal. If they had Bradley Roby, I could maybe consider taking the Texans, but I'm going to be on the Jaguars with you for 0 units.
Yeah, it seems like the right play right now, you know, and like it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Texans end up winning this game or covering here, but you know, I just don't want anything to do with this one. And I regret this is the only one that I bet back in June that I definitely was like, now I regret that I did this. But that at the time, I believe the logic was if I bet this line now, no, that doesn't make sense because my logic was like had to do with Deshaun Watson. Like if this line was for him not playing, but that's what the line ended up being anyway. So I'm talking myself in circles here, but I bet it for a stupid reason. That's what it boils down to.
Well, you've had some amazing bets, for the future. Like the Buccaneers last year at 50-1. So I think you're due for like a stinker like this. But I actually, it's not. I don't think it's a bad bet. I mean, the line is still about the same, and the Jaguars could cover. So I don't hate it. But I'm like you. I wouldn't bet this game right now either. I wouldn't recommend anyone to bet it either. Just watch the game and see how Trevor Lawrence does. I think that's the only appealing thing here.
Agreed.
All right, moving on. Cardinals at the Titans. This line opened up Titans -3. It's still Titans -3. Hasn't moved at all. So who do you like here?
Yeah, I like the Cardinals a lot here. This line still seems way off to me. We've talked about this before on this podcast, but if the Cardinals had made the playoffs, I feel like people would view this line differently, but they didn't make the playoffs last year, and almost everyone is predicting that the Cardinals will finish last in the NFC West. I saw you respond to a tweet of rankings that had the Cardinals at like 25th out of 32 NFL teams, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. Even if you're low on the Cardinals, that's far too low. There are so many teams worse than them. But I mean, all you have to do is look at the Cardinals offense this game. They have Kyler Murray. They have all these receiving weapons. They got Rodney Hudson to upgrade their offensive line. And, running back Chase Edmonds and James Conner, they're going to figure out a rotation there. But Murray can run the ball too. So that's like they have a ton of weapons. And the Titans defense is very bad. I've seen, I think DVOA or maybe another metric projects them to be one of the worst defenses in the league. And I can see it happening because they did not do much to add talent to their defense. I know they drafted Caleb Farley, who looks pretty good. I don't know how he's been coming along or if he's injured or not. And then they're starting Janoris Jenkins and Christian Fulton at cornerback. And Fulton had issues last year. And, Jenkins was fine for New Orleans as a number 2 corner, but he's a veteran. He's kind of over the hill at this point. So if they're trusting him to be the top cornerback, that's not going to go well. I look at the Titans offense. They have a really good offense. They have a lot of weapons. Derrick Henry's going to be great this year. Their offensive line's pretty good. Julio Jones, AJ Brown are very good. If Ryan Tannehill doesn't regress at all, they should be able to score a lot of points and stay in games, but their defense is going to give up so many points. They're going to have to outscore people all the time. That's what happened. That's what's happened in years past, and I don't see that changing right now. Maybe they can get a little pressure on Kyler Murray with Bud Dupree and Jeff Simmons, but I don't see it happening. I think Arizona could win this game outright, so I'll gladly take them as 3-point underdogs here. I have this down as a 3 to 5 unit bet. The one thing giving me pause is that Malcolm Butler retired on the Blues, so the cornerback depth in Arizona is a little bit worse off than I want it to be, but even still, they got Robert Alford coming back, and I feel like he's kind of similar to Butler at this point in his career, just a veteran who can start and give them at least an experienced option on the outside. So that's my only pause with the Cardinals. I love them otherwise.
Yeah, I love the Cardinals a couple weeks ago. I still like them, but the cornerback situation is a little scary for me. Malcolm Butler retiring out of the blue really sucked, especially considering that they lost Darqueze Dennard to injury as well. So he's out. So they're down 2 cornerbacks. Now they have Robert Alford coming back, as you said. He hasn't played since 2018, so that's kind of a problem, I guess. He had some good moments in Atlanta, and he was counted on to be their number 2 cornerback last year before he was lost to injury. So that may not be that bad, because this is a difficult matchup against AJ Brown and Julio Jones. Like to have cornerback issues against those two is going to be very problematic. So I think this game, like. If the Cardinals win this game, they're going to need good play, or at least like mediocre play from Alford in addition to Byron Murphy, because that's a big deal. But otherwise, I think everything else points in Arizona's direction here. I think these teams are closely evenly matched. I think the Cardinals are a little bit better, even considering the cornerback problems. And by the way, those rankings had the Cardinals 3 spots below the Giants, which just like made no sense to me. The Cardinals went into New York and destroyed the Giants last year. And yet they were worse than Giants. It made no sense. The Cardinals, I like them a lot. Otherwise, I like that they improved center with Rodney Hudson. They Murray with more experience with Hopkins and Christian Kirk, AJ Green. They have a great offense. And as you said, the Titans defense is horrible. I don't expect much of a pass rush from them. Bud Dupree is coming off a torn ACL from December. I don't think he's going to be 100%. The cornerback situation is very dire. Janoris Jenkins is going to keep getting worse because he's older. And he was like very mediocre. It's a subpar last year as the number 2 corner, as you said. Now he's the number 1 corner. So Arizona should have a great passing performance here. I love this game for DFS purposes. I'm going to stack Arizona with the Tennessee coming back. Like I might even go like Murray to Hopkins with AJ Brown and Julio Jones just to go nuts with it. But yeah, I think like overall, I would say that the most likely results of this game are Arizona winning by 3 and then Tennessee winning by 3. So if you get Arizona +3, you get either a win or a cover, or a win or a push from those two. And so yeah, that's reason enough for me to take Arizona. So yeah, I like them, but not as much as I did a couple weeks ago because of the cornerback situation.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I'm looking at their depth chart now, and they really behind Alford and Murphy too. That's where it gets concerning for me because I'm fine with Alford being the other outside starter, but you've got 2 rookies and then Luke Barku.
You're back. Okay, you cut out.
Sorry, I keep hitting my headphone wire, which is plugged into the microphone, so that's probably what I'm doing.
Okay.
I'll move that away from my hands. But yeah, that should fix the problem. But yeah, I'm comfortable with Alford, but like you said, the depth behind him, it's 2 rookies and then Luke Barku. So that's like not ideal. I had missed that Darqueze Dennard went on IR too. So that I'll probably knock a unit off. So I'll probably do 3 units exclusively now, barring some, massive cornerback acquisition in the next 2 days, which definitely won't happen, but I can dream of it.
Yeah, I saw that the Niners signed Josh Norman. I'm like, why didn't Arizona do that? Like, I know Norman's kind of washed up, but he at least has some veteran experience, and I think Arizona could use that right now. But I don't know. Maybe they like the rookies, so maybe one of them will play better than expected. All right, moving on. The next game is the Chargers at the Redskins. This line is a pick 'em right now. It opened Chargers -1. Actually, looks like Chris has the Redskins favored by 1. So looks like some sharp action on the home team. So who do you like here?
Yeah, I should probably get my pick on Washington in then because I love them. When they were +1, it was, it was a no-brainer for me, and it still is. They're the better team in this matchup as a whole. I know that the Chargers have a really good offense, or at least in terms of skill position weapons. Their offensive line, they did a great job upgrading that in the offseason, but we don't know if they're going to be ready to go against a defensive line like Washington's right now. Like Washington has the best defensive line in the league. Chase Young is going to be a beast this year. I bet on him at 20-1 odds to win the NFL sack title. I think that he's going to have a huge year. And he plays with Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, and Matt Ioannidis is coming back from injury. So they have 5 defensive linemen who can all rush the passer and are all pretty good against the run. So, I mean, that unit alone would be enough for me to consider them. And then you look at their secondaries improved. Landon Collins is back. They signed William Jackson III. Just that whole defense looks great. And I've been saying this for months. Brian Fitzpatrick's an upgrade over what they had last year. I know he's prone to the nuclear 5 interception game every now and then. But, so long as he doesn't make too many mistakes and makes enough positive plays to move the ball down the field, the Washington offense is going to be pretty good. They just need him to not implode. And I think this game, just for the Chargers, I look at Rashawn Slater's a rookie, and he's played against Chase Young in college, but he's not played against this version of Chase Young. It's going to be hard for him to hold up at left tackle. And then the new members of the Chargers interior line, if their chemistry is not up to snuff, Jonathan Allen, Matt Ioannidis, and Deron Payne are going to sneak back there a lot and pressure Justin Herbert up the middle. So I think that Washington's going to win this game with their defense. I think they could hold the Chargers to maybe 17 points if all goes well. And I think even if it's a low-scoring game, they're going to have a very good chance to win this. So I'm going to be on Washington for 2 units, probably at a pick-up line. This is one of the games that line of the Chargers being favored on the road never made sense to me. It seems like people are catching on now. Washington's going to be a lot better than people realize this year.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was having this conversation with some people over the weekend. If you took quarterback off each roster in the NFL and you were to rank them in power rankings, I feel like the Redskins would be a top 5 team. I think they have the arguably the best defense in the NFL. They have a good offensive line, great skill position players. Ryan Fitzpatrick's the only concern, and he's going to be better than Alex Smith for sure. Like you said, he's going to have one or two horrible games. And hopefully not in the playoffs because they're going to need him to come up big there. But yeah, he can carry this team. I think he's going to make his first playoff appearance, after playing so long without one. I love this team. I like the Chargers as well, though. So it's kind of a shame that they're both playing each other this week. The Chargers made some good additions to their offensive line. The problem is, you're going to have Rashawn Slater going against Chase Young, and that's still like Chase Young's going to dominate him. All the other situations, I feel like Brian Bulaga is going to be healthier this year, but against Montez Sweat, that's not an easy matchup. And then in the interior, I feel like Corey Linsley is going to help a lot, but still they have so much talent there. And plus, they have the great additions in the secondary, like Collins coming back from injury and then William Jackson III to cover one of the receivers. So that's going to be huge for them. And I think that the Redskin offensive line should do well against the Chargers defensive line. So yeah, overall, I like the Redskins a lot. One additional thing is that they have the experienced coach, Ron Rivera, going against a coach making his first start, Brandon Staley. I think Staley's going to be a lot better than what they had last year when Anthony Lynn, who really messed up a lot of clock situations. But still, it's his first start, and I think that that could be problematic in this game, especially since it's like an early start on the East Coast. So yeah, definitely a lot of reasons to think the Redskins. I think this line should be at least -3. So I think we're getting good value with the home team.
Yeah, and on the Brandon Staley point, recently NFL coaches have only been in their first start averaging 17 points a game, so that's where I got the 17 points for the Charger number here. So yeah, I think that's against a great defense. It's going to be really hard. I think this is going to be one of those things where, it's going to be a good loss for Brandon Staley if the Chargers can't win this game, because he's going to go up against a really tough opponent out of the gate. And I feel like that's going to help him a lot and then maybe spark the Chargers. So yeah, because like you said, I like the Chargers a lot too. I think they're going to be a potential wild card contender, even playing in the Chiefs division. So I'm interested to see how they look, because this is going to be a very tough matchup for them on paper.
Yeah, if you're right about that, if we're right about this game, the Chargers are going to be 0-1 next week, playing against Dallas, and I think that could drive the spread down a little bit and give us good value for week 2. All right, moving on, the Eagles at the Falcons. This line opened up Falcons -3.5. Sharp money dropped this down to 3. I had an argument with my dad on Labor Day Monday when we were having dinner. He thinks that Atlanta is 100% locked to win this game. Do you agree?
I would not call them a lock to win this game. I'm not a fan of the Eagles by any stretch of the imagination this year. I don't like their year-long outlook, but I do like them in this spot as underdogs. And the number one reason is their offensive line is healthy right now. So they're going to be able to block against Atlanta's defense, which outside of Grady Jarrett could be described as hapless. They really do not have much talent. So that the right side of that line with Jason Kelsey, Brandon Brooks, and Lane Johnson all playing and being healthy is going to give Jalen Hurts enough time to sit in the pocket, find some receivers, and operate this offense what one would think would be efficiently. And with better blocking in front of him, he'll be able to scramble for more yards as well. So that should help him out too. And I know Philly's defense has a bunch of issues of their own. They don't have much linebacker talent, and their secondary has a bunch of holes in it, but they have a good pass rush, which will rattle Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan does not like being under pressure, and the Atlanta offensive line is not exactly in good shape at this point. They are starting a new center, and with Matt Hennessy there, and they lost. I think their left guard was going to be Josh Andrews, which is not that inspiring, but now he's not playing, and their listed starter right now is Colby Gossett, who they just claimed off waivers. So, if that doesn't change, that could be a problem for them. So I just don't think that the Falcons are as good as some people might think they are. They have some big names for fantasy's sake: Matt Ryan, Calvin. My goodness, I'm having a day, man. They have Calvin Ridley, but if Darius Slay erases him and if they get pressure on Matt Ryan, it's going to be hard for them to score. And again, this is a matchup of 2 first-year head coaches, so they may have trouble scoring anyway. And Atlanta has actually lost against the spread, I think, in 5 consecutive openers, or they've at least lost straight up 5 consecutive season openers. I know that was under Dan Quinn, so it's a little different, but who's to say Arthur Smith's going to turn this thing around right away? So I like the Eagles as underdogs in this one. I think that they could win this one. If not, we're getting the 3 points. So I'm on them for 1 to 2 units. I would also strongly think about taking the under in this one. I don't usually give over-under advice on this podcast, but the number I think is 48.5 right now. I know the defenses aren't great, but I don't think either offense is like a lock to score even like 21, 24 points in this game. So I would be very happy to take the under in this one.
Yeah, I could see both offenses moving the ball well between the 20s and then sputtering in the red zone. The Falcons have never done well in the red zone. I would say at least since Tony Gonzalez retired. Like they've gotten a lot worse in the red zone. And the Eagles have basically, a first-year starter. I know Jalen Hurts started a few games last year, but this is his first time like entering the season as a starter. And he has a brand new receiving core. But yeah, like to answer my own question from earlier, I think that the Eagles can definitely win this game. I feel like the most likely results of this game is Atlanta winning by 3 and Philadelphia winning by 3. I think these teams are about even. In fact, I think if you go position by position, outside of quarterback, receiver 1 and linebacker, I think the Eagles have the edge everywhere else. Maybe if you think about it, I don't know, like maybe Kyle Pitts is going to be better than Dallas Goedert right away, but we don't know that. We haven't really seen him outside of that one catch he had in the preseason. And I think he's going to have a big game because the Eagles linebackers are terrible. So I think Atlanta is going to do well, like I said, moving the ball in between the 20s. But, Atlanta's defense is horrible. They have terrible cornerback play. They have no pass rush outside of Grady Jarrett, as you said. And outside of Deion Jones, their linebacker core is not that good either. So I think this is an even game, and I'm not surprised at all that the Sharps bet the Eagles down to +3. If this line was still +3.5, I think I would bet the Eagles a little bit, but at +3 just doesn't seem that appealing to me. So this is either going to be a non-bet or maybe like a very small bet on the Eagles. But yeah, I really don't have much interest in either of these teams. It's kind of a shame. Like I said before, like it sucks that the Redskins and Chargers are playing each other because I like both teams this year. It also sucks that the Eagles and Falcons are playing each other because those are two teams I want to fade.
I agree with that entirely. I also owe Deion Jones an apology for including him among the hapless Atlanta defense descriptor. He is much better than that. Him and Grady Jarrett are the only two like definitively great, very good players they have on that defense. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't like either of these teams, but I think just situationally, there's a lot that leads me to believe Philadelphia is the right side here. So I will bet on this. I'm a little bit more into it than you, but can understand why you might not be as into it. And I'm also, again, I think I've been wrong every time I predicted an over-under on this, but I really like the under here. And if I'm wrong on that, we'll add that to my 0-4 over-under record for this podcast.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we have an official tracker on that, but I think what you said does make sense. So, all right, moving on. I think we're 6 for 6 in agreement so far. So we'll actually 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're 7 for 7 in agreement so far. Let's see if we can make it 8 for 8. The Seahawks at the Colts. The sign up on a Colts -3, but that was before the Wentz and the Quentin Nelson news. Now the Seahawks are favored by 2.5. So who do you like in this game?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this game. I'm leaning towards the Seahawks at -2.5, but the Seahawks usually start the season slowly and struggle to cover. We've seen them have issues covering against the Bengals in week 1 before, and the Colts are better than the Bengals. But at the same time, I'm not sure I want to bet the Colts because we don't know how healthy Carson Wentz is, how in sync with his receivers he is. T.Y. Hilton's on IR, so I know he's not the player he once was, but that takes away a quality receiving option there. And we don't know how healthy Quentin Nelson is. And they've lost Anthony Costanzo to retirement, so that could be potentially 2 starting offensive linemen that aren't – or Costanzo wouldn't be there, and then Nelson may not be 100%. So, that could be a problem even against Seattle, which doesn't have the best pass rush in the world, but has some guys who can get after it. And if Carson Wentz isn't 100% and can't scramble as much, he could end up being a sitting duck back there. So there's a lot in this game that leads me to fear the Colts. So I'm more likely to pick the Seahawks for office pool purposes, at least until we know more about Wentz. Like, if there are like reports coming out of practice that's like, oh my goodness, he looks great, looks like he was never injured, then I might reconsider here because this is a big line move. But I'm not sold on that offense working. But at the same time, like, they have a very good defense that could give Russell Wilson trouble because they start the season slowly. So right now I'm just going Seahawks in office pool purposes. You could possibly convince me to change sides if you're on opposite sides, but I'm probably not going to bet this one.
Yeah, we kind of have the same thought process here. But we went to a different conclusion. Like, I'm on the Colts, but I don't have strong conviction here because, like you said, we don't know about Carson Wentz's health. We don't know about Quentin Nelson, the rest of their offensive line. Like, Eric Fisher was activated. I don't know if he's going to play. Like, if he does play, he's not going to be 100%. I probably doesn't play, but we'll see. I want to see what their injury report looks like. I want to hear about Carson Wentz. But ultimately, what led me to take the Colts is just the line value that we're getting. This line used to be Colts -3. And now it's Colts +2.5. They adjusted the spread for Wentz and Nelson being out, but they never readjusted it. Like, it's just still the same as it was before. And now we know that it's likely they're going to play, but they may not be 100%. So it may not even matter. So there are just way too many unknowns in this game. And plus, we don't even know how Wentz is going to play. He was horrible last year after being an MVP candidate a couple of years before that. And he even dragged a horrible Eagles teams to the playoffs in 2019. So, like, Wentz just fell off a cliff last year. I think he's going to be better with Frank Reich, but we don't know that for sure. It's a great week 1 matchup against Seattle's defense, which is just putrid. Even Wentz at like 80% might even be able to win this game because Seattle's defense is just so bad. And like you said, Seattle tends to get off to a slow start, even though that wasn't the case last year. Although they were playing Atlanta, which is one of the worst teams in the NFL. So you can't really say anything about that. So this is our first disagreement, I guess, but I don't even think I'm going to bet this game. So it may not matter.
Yeah, this is a classic where we think largely the same, and I completely understand your thought process. Like, the line value there is hypothetically very good, but like at the same time in my head, I'm like, has it not moved back because people are like, they know that these guys aren't as healthy as we think they are, or has it not moved because people are afraid? So it's hard to judge, but yeah, I would not bet either team in this scenario. Richard just said he would bet the house on the Colts. I can't say that I recommend that. It's your house. You do what you'd like. But, if you end up being right about that, good for you. My advice would be not to bet this game. But, this is definitely one of my least favorite ones on the slate.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Richard why he thinks he would bet the house on the Colts, because I really don't see this game being very appealing. But, if you have a great argument about it, I'd love to hear it for sure. All right, next game is Vikings at the Bengals. This line is Vikings -3. There's some 3.5 starting to creep in. It's still -3 in most sports books. So who do you like here?
Yeah, this is another game that I really don't like because there are some unknowns here. Like, logic would say that probably the Vikings are the better team, but I also think that they're pretty overrated. They improved their offensive line a bit, but like Christian Darrisaw hasn't played during the preseason while dealing with a core muscle injury. And the Vikings just did not look good at all in the preseason. Like, usually Mike Zimmer teams play well in the preseason, and they just got crushed by the Broncos that first game, like mercilessly. So that was a big red flag for me. Maybe the team isn't responding to Zimmer's coaching as much, or maybe he doesn't care as much about the preseason anymore. But that was just one thing that stood out to me. They obviously have good skill position weapons. I'm not a big Kirk Cousins guy, but if he can distribute the ball to Jefferson, Thielen, and Dalvin Cook, it's fine. And defensively, I think they're going to be better than they were last year because their young players are going to come along a little more. Danielle Hunter's going to be healthy. They signed Dalvin Tomlinson, which I think is going to help them slow down the run and stop Joe Mixon. But they still have some holes in the linebacking core, and we need to see if Patrick Peterson can bounce back at cornerback. If not, they're going to be relying on some more young guys there, which, again, could pan out. But they lost Jeff Gladney because they caught him after he got arrested for something. I can't remember what. But, yeah, I look at the Vikings, and I like what they have, but there are enough concerns just to make me nervous. But then I look at the Bengals, and it's Joe Burrow. We don't know how healthy he is at all. he played 3 snaps in the preseason, which made 0 sense to me. Like maybe from a confidence standpoint, you just want him on the field, but why wouldn't you play him like at least like 8 snaps or something, like 2 series, even if they're 3 and outs? Like, I don't know. It made no sense. It seemed like a gratuitous, like, all right, we're going to get him on the field so people stop asking us about him. And then their offensive line is still a mess. I know Penei Sewell didn't look good in the preseason, but he would have been better than Jamar Chase. So I'm going to start calling Bricks, depending on how he does in the regular season, because he truly did not catch anything. Yeah, that offense is going to have trouble moving the ball on the Vikings defense, but the Bengals defense is looking better. So the Vikings might have trouble too. I'm leaning on the Vikings in this one, but this is not one I want to bet. Like, I think the Vikings are the better team. But, you know, if Joe Burrow is healthier than we think he is, there's no reason that he can't cover this type of spread. We talked about it earlier in the offseason. We thought, you know, if Joe Burrow is healthy, this is going to be an easy, like, Bengals +3 at home, but we just don't know. So I'm on the Vikings right now, but I'm not betting this game.
Yeah, this is another one where we were thinking the same, but we came to a different conclusion at the end. The Joe Burrow thing was so perplexing in the preseason. Like he was playing, I'm like, okay, he's finally healthy to play. He handed the ball off on 2 of the three downs, and he threw a dump off pass on the other down, and then he just left the game. I'm like, well, why? Like, what was the point of that? There's no point in that at all. It was weird. It's almost like propaganda, like you were saying. Like, yeah, he's healthy. Look at this. Like, Joe Burrow's healthy. Like, I don't know. It's just so weird. I can't bet the Bengals knowing that. But Joe Burrow could be a complete shell of his former self. He had a nasty knee injury last year. Really a shame because he was having a great rookie year. But yeah, if he's like 50% of his former self from last year, you can't bet this game, especially with Jamar Chase. You know, dropping everything in sight. He had 4 drops and 1 catch in the preseason. Like, how does that even happen? I don't understand. Like, just catch the ball. It shouldn't be that difficult. Like, I feel like we could have better conversion rates. Now, granted, we'd probably just get killed on the first tackle, but still, we could at least catch the ball, I think, you know? You can't bet the Bengals not knowing Joe Burrow. But then with the Vikings, they just seem like a total disaster to me. Like, they can't block whatsoever. And I think something you said might be like very true with Mike Zimmer. Like, he was just yelling at his team like the entire time, and they might just be tuning him out at this point. Like, just reminds me of a coach who's just been around for so long, and Zimmer's a good coach, but you know, maybe the team is just tired of him and they need a new voice. We'll see. Maybe it's just an overreaction, but they couldn't block at all in the preseason. They're missing Riley Reif a lot. Like, they drafted Christian Darrisaw, he can't play, and so they're going to have major blocking problems against Trey Hendrickson. You know, the Bengals, despite their offensive futility, they added a great edge rusher, and so they should be better defensively. So, yeah, I mean, how do you bet the Bengals? How do you bet the Vikings at -3 on the road, knowing that they could quit on their coach and not block? And then how do you take the Bengals not knowing if you're going to get a healthy quarterback? So, yeah, I'm on the Bengals at +3, just, you know, because if Burrow is anywhere close to 100%, the Bengals are a great play. But we just don't know that. So I'm not going to bet this game.
Yeah, again, I completely agree with you. And I'm just like, I don't know what it is. I do not want to take the risks in week 1, I guess, with Wentz and Burrow, but I could easily see the Bengals covering here.
Yeah, it's a tough one for sure. So luckily we don't have to pick every game in the Super Contest. Otherwise, I'd be kind of like tearing my hair out for this one. All right, last of the early games, the 49ers at the Lions. This line opened up 49ers -7.5. It's still 7.5. So who do you like here?
Yeah, I love the 49ers here. I think this line isn't high enough. I think that, this is the highest line of the week, which it seems like it should just be higher. The 49ers weren't good last year, but they had a million injuries. Like Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Raheem Mostert all missed time. And that's not even mentioning Jimmy Garoppolo, who was out last year. Now Garoppolo's back, and if he struggles or gets hurt, they have Trey Lance waiting in the wings. So they have a lot more talent on offense, and on defense, Nick Bosa's there too. He was hurt last year. So, I mean, they're just so much healthier. They're such a better team than they were last year. And Kyle Shanahan's a good coach, and he had extra time to prepare. And meanwhile, the Lions have arguably the second least talent in the NFL next to the Texans. That's by design, though. They're actually going through a legitimate rebuild. This was not the Bill O'Brien, let's just throw things around and see what happens. Dan Campbell's going to be there for a while. I think he will be able to motivate his players. His style is unorthodox, but we've seen it work with the Dolphins before. So I think he'll get his guys to play hard, but they just don't have the talent right now. Like, you're talking about an offense where Jared Goff has to throw to Tyrell Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then TJ Hawkinson as his top weapons, and then DeAndre Swift, who sounds like he's going to play, but we don't know if he's 100% either. He's dealing with a groin injury. Those things tend to linger. If he gets banged up, then they really don't have much at running back. Well, Jamal Williams is there, but you'd rather have Swift there. And then defensively, they're a nightmare there. They have a lot of young talent that they just got to kind of sift through and see, these guys are going to work, these guys aren't going to work. So I think the 49ers should win this by double digits easily. This could be a big time blowout. I'm not 700-6, Richard, as you said. I think 28-7, like Richard just posted. I think that's a decent guess for this one. But yeah, I don't think that the Lions are going to come close to covering this one. This is one of my favorite plays of the week. I've got the 3 to 5 units on this one. I know there's always the risk of a backdoor cover, as we say, but as you mentioned, there's when the team's healthy, it's less likely to happen. So, I think the 49ers are one of the easiest picks of the week at this number.
Yeah, I like the 28-7 prediction that Richard had. I have 31-10, so just add a field goal to both sides. I think it's going to be like a 3-touchdown victory for the 49ers. This just seems so lopsided. Like, every matchup's in San Francisco's favor. And it's easy to forget how good the Niners were in 2019. Like, last year, they had so many injuries. D Ford was out right away. Nick Bosa played one game, and like, they were shuffling players in and out. They had some games where they had like Richie James as their number one receiver. They just had so many injuries. Garoppolo as well. George Kittle was out for a while. Now, like, everyone's back, and they added Alex Mack to their offensive line. So this team just seems like a powerhouse overall. If I had any more faith in their quarterbacking, I would say that they could be one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl. I don't really trust Garoppolo, and then Trey Lance is only a rookie. I think Lance in a couple years could definitely take him there. But they should be able to destroy a team like the Lions. You could even if you're trying to talk yourself into the Lions, you might say, this is an early start on the East Coast. Lions play on the Eastern Standard Time. But still, like, the Niners are really good in this situation over the years. They've done extremely well in these early start games. And also, like, if you could say like this line is too high, imagine this line like week 8 or week 9. Once we know how good the Niners are and how bad the Lions are, like, this line could be in double digits, like 13 even. So I'm definitely going to be on the Niners. The one concern I really do have is that, I mentioned the Colts at the Jaguars from last year, where the Colts overlooked the Jaguars. Like, this seems like the same sort of situation where the Niners, they think they're going to beat the Lions easily, and they overlook them, and then they have some bad turnovers. They're just not focused. But I think a Kyle Shanahan coach team is going to do better than that, and especially against a first-time head coach like Dan Campbell. I know Campbell was an interim a long time ago with the Dolphins, but still, it seems like Kyle Shanahan versus Dan Campbell just seems like a way huge advantage for the 49ers. So I like them a lot.
Yeah, and they're playing the Eagles the week after, so I don't think that they're going to be like looking ahead like, oh man, the Eagles are much tougher than the Lions, man. Like, the Eagles are probably a little better than the Lions right now, but I don't think it's that significant of a difference. And this is the question that I have when considering this line. If this line, like, say San Francisco had been coming off their Super Bowl year last year instead of this year, what would this line be? Because I think it would be a lot higher. I think it would be approaching 10, if not at 10, like if they had just been in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Typically they hold back the week 1 lines from being too high, but yeah, I think you're right. I think it'd be 9.5, 10, 10.5, something like that for sure. And like I said before, I think people forget how good the Niners were. There was a comment about the Niners doing poorly on the East Coast in early starts. That hasn't been the case recently. Under Jim Harbaugh and then now Kyle Shanahan, they've done very well. If you remember last year, they had back-to-back games against the Jets and the Giants on early East Coast start times, and they clobbered both teams. and they destroyed the Giants with Nick Mullins starting at quarterback. So, I think the Niners are definitely equipped to win this game in a blowout. Like I said, the only concern I have is their focus, but I think they'll be fine. I don't have that much of a concern there. All right, let's get to the late afternoon games. Once again, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. All that will be amazing. It would help us out a lot. All right, the Browns are at the Chiefs. This line opened up Chiefs -6. It's still 6 in most places. BetUS has 6.5. But anyway, who do you like here?
Yeah, I like the Chiefs in this one. Like John Harbaugh, who we're going to talk about later on, Andy Reid is elite with extra time to prepare. He should have a good plan in place to attack the Browns. And Kevin Stefanski, the reason I brought up Harbaugh, I'm reading my notes out of order. This is why I got to actually follow what I write. But Stefanski faced Harbaugh last year in the season opener, right? And he lost 38-6. So Harbaugh's elite with extra time to prepare. So is Andy Reid. So I think that, Reid will have a good plan in place to attack the Browns. Both these teams have elite offensive lines at this point. The Chiefs did a really good job of rebuilding theirs. They have 3 basically rookies starting up front, but they all look really good. They have a ton of veteran depth. So Patrick Mahomes is going to be well protected. And I think the motivational factor is massive for the Chiefs in this one, because they came close to losing to the Browns after Patrick Mahomes got hurt. Like, the Browns were had them on the edge before the Chiefs, pulled away, and Chad Henne was able to get them to the victory in the divisional round there. So I think they're going to want a little revenge for that. But more than anything else, they're going to want to look better than they did in the Super Bowl. Like, they've had that lasting image of Patrick Mahomes getting just clobbered on every play and then losing just brutally to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, a team that they had blown a lead against earlier in the season too. So I think that's going to be weighing on their minds. They're going to want to come out and just kind of punch Cleveland in the mouth. I think Stefanski's a very good coach, so maybe he'll have a good plan in place. But I think that the Chiefs should win this by 10 points or so, maybe a couple scores. Maybe there's an opportunity for Baker Mayfield to get some garbage points, but at -6, I love the Chiefs here. You get a combo of the personnel edge, the motivation edge, and Andy Reid with extra time. You can always sign me up. So I'll be on them for 2 to 3 units here.
Yeah, Andy Reid always does well in these week 1 games when he has a lot of time to prepare. He's 6-2 against the spread as the Chiefs head coach in week 1. The last time he didn't cover was in 2016 against the Chargers. He won by 6 and the spread was 7. So it just goes to show that how great he's been in week 1. And I don't see why anything would change here. If you remember, the Chiefs were up 22-10 against the Browns in that playoff game. Now the Browns came back and they scored a touchdown to make it a 5-point game to cover. But that was when Patrick Mahomes got hurt. And Chad Henne just at quarterback, yeah, he got that first down. That was big. But he stopped scoring. And, I think if Mahomes stayed in the game, I think the Chiefs probably pull away, win by 2 touchdowns. And I hate to say that because I had the Browns in that game and I was lucky to get the cover. But I think that with Mahomes, they definitely get the cover. And if you remember in that game that the Chiefs had major offensive line problems like they had the entire playoffs. They fixed those issues, and now they're going to have a better offense because Mahomes is going to be well protected, which is big against the Browns defensive line with Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. I think you make a great point with the Chiefs being motivated in this game. Patrick Mahomes has such a big chip on his shoulder. He even bashed the Jets when they didn't draft him, and he made sure he blew them out last year. He's been thinking about that loss for a long time. Just getting embarrassed in the Super Bowl. I think he's going to want to just make a statement and blow out the Browns. So I like the Browns this year. Like nothing against them, but I think the Chiefs are just a lot better than every other team in the NFL except for maybe the Buccaneers. So I like the Chiefs to cover the spread. I think it's too low.
Yeah, and I'm kind of hoping the Chiefs blow out the Browns here so we get an easy cover, and then maybe the Browns versus Texans spread in week 2 won't be as big as people might make it, especially if the Texans can pull out a win. So yeah, that would bode well for us too if we get a little line value there, even if it's just a point.
Yeah, always looking for that line value in advance. I'm looking forward to that, to the week 2 lines coming out. Actually, I see them right now, and where's the Houston line? You want real quick? Do you want to guess Houston at Cleveland? What do you think it is next year? Next week.
That's got to be pretty high. I would think they probably would put it at 9.
Oh, it's -13.
Wow. Okay, higher than that. Okay.
Yeah, so maybe you're right. Maybe that'll come down if those two things happen. Maybe we'll get like a -11 or something, or -10.5. We'll see, I guess. All right, the next game is the Dolphins at the Patriots. This line opened up Patriots -2.5. It moved to -3. Mac Jones, of course, the starter now for the Patriots with Cam Newton gone. So we haven't had a strong disagreement yet. I wonder if this is going to be the time things change. What do you think about this game?
This is definitely going to be the one. It's definitely going to be the one. I knew it writing my preview notes for this one. I'm like, this is going to be the one that we're going to disagree on the most, because I'm on the Patriots here. I think this is going to be a good matchup. And it's going to be about Belichick versus Flores, which one's going to be able to do the most in week 1. And obviously, we know Belichick's proven with extra time to prepare. He does very well. And Flores has been a very good coach, but I think people are kind of sleeping on New England a little bit. And I'm not even talking about from an offensive perspective. I'm looking at the defense. They have a ton of people coming back that were absent last year, be it because of an opt-out in Dante Hightower's case, or in the case of Kyle Van Noy, he was on the Dolphins last year and he ended up back with the Patriots because the Dolphins decided after 1 year that they wanted to go in a different direction. And the Patriots, they did not do well last year because their roster wasn't talented. And Belichick has tried to fix that problem, given it a big infusion of just talent and depth. And I think on defense, we saw Matt Judon play really well in the preseason. I think the defense is going to show it really well. I know Stephon Gilmore is going to be out for the game, and that's a little bit of a concern, but they have pretty good depth in the secondary and just really strong defense overall. So I think they're going to be really good on that side of the ball. I think their offensive line is going to be really good against this Miami front. I think that if they can just continue to block well and the Patriots can play a time of possession game, let Mac Jones just have to make some quick rhythm throws over the middle, not do too much, ride Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. That's the script I see Belichick using in this one. Use the offensive line and defense to beat the Dolphins. Will that happen? I'm not entirely sure, but I think that they're very good overall. I think them being 3-point favorites at home is a pretty good value. If we were talking about Belichick like this last year with this type of roster, I think people would be talking about this as a no-brainer. I think a lot of people are scared about what they were last year, and there's nothing against the Dolphins here. But I think that they've downgraded a few key positions. They've lost more talent than people realize. They've made some roster cuts, and I still have concerns about their offensive line. They have a great secondary though, so that could make the Patriots stay tough passing the ball. But we'll see what happens. But I like the Patriots in this matchup. I just think Belichick's going to have the right plan in place.
So you could be right about this game. I could be right about this game. We don't know. We'll see. But the one thing I know you're wrong about, and this surprised me. 24 hours ago, I would have not said this at all. But I saw this on Twitter today, and it absolutely shocked me when you said that the people are sleeping on the Patriots. I saw a graphic from NFL Network, and like they had all their analysts' predictions of the playoffs, and every single analyst picked the Patriots to make the playoffs. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. It was so shocking to me. And none of those analysts had the Dolphins making the playoffs. And I'm like, man, I like the Dolphins better than the Patriots. You like the Patriots better than the Dolphins. But I think we agree that they're pretty close, right?
Yeah, no, they're pretty close. I wouldn't expect that every analyst in the graphic would have the Patriots in there.
Yeah, I was shocked by that. And I was like reading the comments and like people were like, yeah, Mac Jones hype. And I'm like, all right, well, I don't know about Mac Jones. Like he played great in the preseason, like no doubt, but he didn't play against, I don't think, a single starting unit. Like when he was on the field, like he played late the first game. Then he played against the Eagles, who played no starters. And then the third game, I don't think he saw any starters against the Giants. So we've seen quarterbacks do great in the preseason before. Daniel Jones looked like Dan Marino 2 years ago in the preseason, and he played against starters. And he just kind of flamed out in the regular season. We've seen Kyle Sloter and Nathan Peterman look like John Elway and Peyton Manning in the preseason. It's turned out to be nothing. Mac Jones could be a good quarterback for sure. I didn't like him entering the draft. But that doesn't mean he's going to be bad for sure. Like, he could definitely be a good quarterback. I just really worry about him in this matchup against Brian Flores. There's obviously Bill Belichick's the best coach in the NFL. He's the best coach in this matchup, and having an elite coach with extra time to prepare, that's huge for sure. But having a great defensive-minded coach like Brian Flores going against a rookie quarterback, especially one making his first start, I think that's a huge advantage as well. So I think that there's so many conflicting things here. I just expect more from the Dolphins. I think they're going to be able to force Jones into some turnovers. I'd be shocked if he had fewer than 3 turnovers, for example, in this game. Like, I know the Patriots are going to put him in good situations, but Brian Flores, I think he's going to really trick Mac Jones at times in this game. And we've seen the Dolphins be a turnover machine at times last year, and I think they're going to have a big game. The one thing I worry about with the Dolphins, though, is their offensive line. Like, Austin Jackson might be out even, and so they're going to have to start Greg Little against Matthew Judon, which seems like such a big problem. But Tua Tagovailoa releases the ball quickly, and he's going to be better this year, a lot better than he was last year, because he's so far removed from his injury. And I think that going against the secondary, not missing Stephon Gilmore, I think that's pretty huge. Like, I know the Patriots, like you said, have great depth in the secondary, but missing Gilmore is just so big, I think. Gilmore got hurt in that Dolphins game last year, the second Dolphins game. And it was a close game. I think the Patriots were even ahead by the time when he got hurt. And then the Dolphins kind of ran away with that game after Gilmore got hurt. So I think that's a big deal, especially given how much talent the Dolphins have at receiver. I know Will Fuller's out, but they still have Devontae Parker, Jalen Waddle, Preston Williams, and then Mike Gesicki, tight end. I just like the Dolphins here. I think there's too much love for Mac Jones right now. Again, he could be good in the future. But in this first game against Brian Flores, I don't think he will be. And I think that at +3, I think the most likely results of this game are Patriots by 3, Dolphins by 3. And at +3, we get the win or the push. So I'm on Miami.
It's funny, too, though, because I like this game, but not because of Mac Jones. Like, it's weird to me that people are like, Mac Jones is starting, and they think that that's going to fix the Patriots thing. It's like, he might be more accurate than Cam Newton, but, like, he's still young. So and I'm a big Mac Jones guy, as we've talked about on this podcast before. But I think that they're just going to ride the running game and the offensive line more than anything else. That's why I think that they're going to be pretty good. So I could see your argument for the Dolphins, but I just think that the Patriots are going to do well in this spot. And I don't think it's going to be because of Mac Jones. I think Belichick's going to do his best to protect him. It will be very interesting to see if Belichick's plans to protect Jones work against whatever Brian Flores has cooked up to try to stop him.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not super confident in this game. Like, I can see the Patriots winning and covering. I think it's a pretty close game. To seeing, how these two coaches match with each other, especially Flores going against the rookie quarterback. But I agree with what you said. I think the Patriots are going to put Mac Jones into a great situation, and maybe that limits his turnovers, but I still think Flores will get the advantage going against Jones. And so, I'm really looking forward to this game, but I'm not going to bet it.
Yeah, I'm probably going to put a unit on the Patriots just for fun because I'm a Patriots guy. So that's what I'll do.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right, next game. This one I have a lot more interest in. The Broncos at the Giants. I hope you do too, because I would like to have this as one of our super contest joint entries. The line open up, pick 'em. It's now Broncos -3. So who do you like here?
Yeah, so I bet this was one of my June bets. I bet the Broncos at -1 when we thought Aaron Rodgers might end up on the team. And I love that line now. I'm very glad I locked it in at that point. The Broncos, they have a massive advantage in this one. We talked about Washington having a top 5 roster outside of quarterback in the NFL. I think the Broncos are in that category as well. Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock are going to be the quarterbacks there, and I don't even think that's a bad situation there. I think Teddy Bridgewater proved to be very good in the preseason, so we'll see what he can do. But the Giants are a mess. Their offense is in shambles. Their offensive line is terrible. Andrew Thomas has not panned out. That pick looks very bad unless he can rapidly put things together. That is going to be a huge bust. Daniel Jones is prone to turnovers. The Broncos don't exactly force a lot of them, but they have so many quality defenders. Von Miller and Bradley Chubb could get after the passer, and they have a million good cornerbacks there. I think they have Kyle Fuller now in addition to what they already had. They drafted Patrick Surtain. So there's no way to attack this defense, especially not with Kenny Golladay banged up and Saquon Barkley potentially not fully healthy yet. So there's nothing to like about the Giants offense against the Broncos defense. And then, the Giants have a decent defense. I think they're going to be pretty good at times this year, but the Broncos have so many weapons. I mean, I'm just going to list them because it's ridiculous what they have. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant, KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick, Javonte Williams, and Melvin Gordon. That's just to name a few. They have a good offensive line. Their team is ridiculous. I feel like with a better quarterback, they'd be a legit Super Bowl contender. That's why I bet them against the offseason, bet them to win the Super Bowl in the offseason, hoping they would get Aaron Rodgers. They didn't do that, but they're still going to be a good team. They're still going to fight for a potential playoff spot and wild card berth. So I like the Broncos in this one a lot. At -3, I'm probably going to bet a couple of units on them. I already have 5 units on them at -1. I'm probably just going to stick with that, but I might even put a couple extra ones on this because I think this could end up being a blowout. I just don't think the Giants are that good. And, as much as I like Joe Judge, this has not been a good offseason for his program. It just seems there's something wrong there.
Yeah, there's definitely something wrong. Like they had a team-wide fight. Kenny Golladay is talking about how the offense is going to struggle to start the year already. There's a lot of excuses being made. Saquon Barkley's not 100%. Their offensive line looks like a disaster. Andrew Thomas just looks terrible. Like he looked like a human turnstile in the preseason. It's like, how do you draft Andrew Thomas over Tristan Wirfs, Mekhi Becton, Jedrick Wills? You can maybe say this in hindsight, but I thought we both agreed that Andrew Thomas was not the ideal pick for the Giants when they made it. And then they doubled down. They traded down for Kadarius Toney when they could have drafted Rashawn Slater to maybe fix that problem. So they compounded their issues, and that as a result, they just have an offensive line that might be the worst offensive line in the NFL. I have a feeling that, unless Nate Solder bounces back, I just don't think they're going to be able to block anyone. And so against teams with great pass rushers like Denver, just going to be so much of an issue for them, handling an offense, like handling a defense by consistently moving the chains. And Daniel Jones is a turnover machine. So how is he going to operate with getting so much pressure against a great defensive backfield? So it seems like the Giants should be able to score it all. And you're right. I mean, the Broncos have so many weapons. It just feels like this should be a blowout. I'm with you. I bet the Broncos to win the Super Bowl as well. We both thought they were going to get Aaron Rodgers. You were smarter, a lot smarter than me, because you took the Broncos at 50-1 on draft day, and I was kind of too slow, and ended up getting 28-1, which I was still happy about. And then when I was in Vegas at the Circa, I saw Denver Denver was 55-1, and I was like, aha! I finally got the upper hand with a better number, but they didn't trade for Aaron Rodgers, so it doesn't matter. But still, I think they're kind of like the Redskins, where if you remove quarterback, they have a top 5 roster in the NFL, and Bridgewater should be fine against the Giants. The Giants have they have some great talent at cornerback, but their pass rush feels like non-existent because they lost Kyle Fackrell, and they really don't have anyone else on the edge rush. They have some other good players in the interior. But yeah, I think this is going to be a blowout. I just don't see how the Giants score at all. And frankly, the Broncos defense might score more points than the Giants offense.
I wonder what the odds on betting that would be. That would be an interesting one to find.
I know. I don't know if we're going to see that anywhere, but I would definitely take that. I think we'd get good odds on that. The last of the late afternoon games, the Packers were supposed to be at the Saints. This is now in Jacksonville because of Hurricane Ida. This line opened up Packers -3. It's now 4.5. So who do you like here?
Yeah, I like the Packers a lot in this one because of the neutral site factor of it. I did a little research today, and in the 3 most recent games moved due to weather, the better team has tended to win in blowout fashion. Granted, there are only 3 of these games in the last decade, and the last one came in 2014. But the point is that, it's very hard for any team to win a neutral site game when they're not as good as the other team. And I don't think that the Saints are as good as the Packers right now. The Packers have the better quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is going to be playing pissed off because of that whole offseason dispute. He's going to want to prove again that he's an MVP type player. So I think that he's going to have a good chance to shred up a Saints defense that is very thin at cornerback right now. I think they have 4 true cornerbacks on their roster, and that's only after signing Desmond Trufant like today. So they're going to have PJ Williams and CJ Gardner-Johnson, who have both played cornerback and nickelback before, to play outside of cornerback a little. But you're talking about trusting Ken Crawley, a rookie, and Paulson Adebo, and Desmond Trufant signed off the street to really slow down Aaron Rodgers. I do not see that working very well. And I think Jameis Winston might play well, but he's also always prone to games with big interceptions. He has that nuclear factor to him, like Ryan Fitzpatrick, which is why it was funny that they played together at times, because when one would have a bad game, you'd put in the other, and it would be like, might be the same thing, might be the exact opposite. But he doesn't have a lot of weapons around him right now. Marquez Callaway's played well, but aside from him, the Saints really do not have a lot. Most of their tight ends are hurt, so it's gonna be a heavy lift for Winston and Kamara and Callaway to carry that offense and go blow for blow with Rodgers. So I think the Packers could win this one in blowout fashion. Again, all the last 3 games moved to due to weather were won by at least 18 points by the better team. So I like the Packers here a lot.
Yeah, great research there. I recall off the top of my head the teams that had to move due to weather really did struggle, especially if they were worse team than the opposition, which is definitely the case here. Obviously last year you wouldn't say that because they had Drew Brees. They still had a lot of their defensive players, but now they're all gone. Although I should say that the Packers won in New Orleans last year, so you could say the Packers are better, but still they were pretty close. But that's not the case anymore at all. I mean, the Saints lost several defensive starters. They lost, as you said, several defensive backs. I think outside of Marshawn Lattimore, their outside cornerbacks are Ken Crawley and Paulson Adebo, which doesn't bode well against the Packer receivers, in the passing game with Aaron Rodgers. You were all over this last year with Aaron Rodgers' FU mode, and he came out right away against the Vikings and destroyed them. I feel like this is going to be the same thing this year. Rodgers, he tends to have giant chips on his shoulder, and I think he's going to try to prove that right away, that he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Even though he won MVP last year, he's still going to have that FU mode. And so I expect them to play well. And then, with the Saints, Jameis Winston had the LASIK surgery, but I still don't trust him completely. Like, he could still implode and have some pick sixes. Marcus Callaway is his only viable receiver. Like, Traquan Smith sucks. You have little Jordan Humphrey, who's just, I don't know anything about him, really. I know he played in Texas, but he just doesn't seem like a good player. Deontay Harris is there. I don't trust him either. They have basically almost a rookie tight end, Juwan Johnson. Don't like him very much either. Maybe he proved himself, but I don't have much faith in him. Alvin Kamara is the one player I think he's going to have a big game, but still, it's not going to be enough. I think the Packers should win this game easily, especially given that the Saints might be distracted with Hurricane Ida. Who knows? I mean, some of their homes might have been destroyed. They're worried about their families. Like, how do they focus for this game? Like, how do they prepare for it? I just think the Packers have too much of an advantage here.
Yeah, and it doesn't help their cause either that the Saints have historically started slowly as well. They're another one of those teams that start slow. I remember when the Buccaneers were bad at one point. I think the Saints lost to them like 48-42 in the first week of the season. It was like shocking. It was like, whoa, the Bucs are supposed to be bad, and they just beat the Saints. There's always a panic mode with the Saints, like 3 or 4 games in, where it's like, oh, they have 2 losses already. So I could easily see that happening again. So yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page here with the Packers. It just feels like this is another opportunity for Rodgers to start the season off with a bang.
Yeah. So since 2013, the Saints are 2-14 against the spread in weeks 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, maybe that's Drew Brees. Who knows? But I don't know. I think that has to be more of a team-wide thing. And in that game against Tampa, Drew Brees didn't play poorly or anything. He, like you said, 42 points. It wasn't Drew Brees' fault that they lost outright. As I think they were like a 9.5 point favorite in that game. So yeah, it was. I expect the Saints to begin slowly again this year, especially against the Packers. It seems way too lopsided of a matchup. All right, let's go to the Sunday night game. It is the Bears at the Rams. This line opened up Rams -7. It's up to 7.5. So who do you like in this game?
Yeah, I like the Rams in this one. This one's another one where the line doesn't feel high enough to me. I'm just going to read to you these Andy Dalton primetime numbers. This was as of August 1st, 2019. I had about 10 minutes to research this part of it, so that was all I could find. He is 6-19-1 in primetime games with an 80.6 passer rating and has thrown equal or more interceptions than touchdowns in 14 of 26 games in primetime at that time. So he's probably played in a few more since then for both the Bengals and the Cowboys. And I do not think they went well either. I believe the primetime games last year were particularly dreadful. I can't remember if Dalton started those. But yeah, we're getting primetime Andy Dalton behind a bad offensive line against a defense that is great, run by Raheem Morris, who basically had the Falcons playing out of their minds last year, and I would have had no problem if he stayed on as the head coach there. And then the Rams, they just got better. They got Matthew Stafford to add to the team. So, yeah, I think the Rams are going to blow out the Bears here. I think this is going to be the start of the really gung-ho, why the heck are we starting Andy Dalton? What's the point of this type thing? There is a conspiracy theory out there, too, that they're just they know the offensive line's bad, so they're going to throw Andy Dalton out as the sacrificial lamb, and then Justin Fields will ride in week 2. I don't know if I quite believe that, but yeah, the Rams are the pick here. They're 4-0 straight up and against the spread in week 1 under Sean McVay. They're going to crush the Bears. I'd be surprised if they don't.
Yeah, the Bears play the Bengals in week 2 at home. So that seems like a much better situation to play Justin Fields in his first game. I wouldn't want to run him out against Aaron Donald either. It just seems like a total disaster doing that. What if Fields takes 6 sacks and throws 3 interceptions, and then his confidence is shot because this is his first game and it's against Aaron Donald, arguably the best defense in the NFL. I say the Redskins, but you could put the Rams up there. And I think that's the right move to go with Andy Dalton because the Bears are not going to win this game anyway, especially with Sean McVay having extra time to prepare. You mentioned the 4-0 straight up and against the spread number, and all those games, by the way, were with Jared Goff at quarterback. Now he has an upgrade with Matthew Stafford. I'm really excited to see what Matthew Stafford does with the Rams because this is the first time he's going to have good coaching. It just seems like the Lions were a complete mess with their coaching situations. They're always firing guys. He's never coached up well, and I think Stafford could have his best year yet, which makes me think that the Rams could have a good chance to win the Super Bowl. I bet them to win the Super Bowl. I think it's 14 or 16-1. I think it was 16-1. So I think they're if it wasn't for the Buccaneers, I'd say the Rams would be the favorite to come out of the NFC. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they do. I don't think Stafford's going to have an issue against the Bears defense. The Bears still have some great players on their defense, like Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks. Their safeties I like, but their cornerback situations just seems so abysmal to me. Kendall, what's his name? Vildor. He's sounds like a Game of Thrones character, but he's starting for the Bears at cornerback. I don't know what they're doing at corner. They had Desmond Trufant there. He didn't make final cuts. Just seems like they didn't have really a great plan for that position, which is just mind-boggling to me because they had such great cornerback play when in 2018 when they went to the playoffs and almost beat the Eagles. But ever since then, they lost all their good cornerbacks. They lost Kyle Fuller this offseason. Just this Bears defense is still going to be good, but it's not great anymore. And Stafford should just do fine against it. So yeah, I like the Rams a lot. This might be in my super contest pool. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a big play on the Rams.
Yeah, I think this would be one I would consider for the super contest as well. And looking at their cornerback depth chart, the only guy I'm confident in is Jalen Johnson. And, he's a second-year player. I thought he was good as a number 2 across from Kyle Fuller last year. So we're yet to see how he's going to do without him. So the big risk for the Bears. Yeah, their defense, it's not what it once was. It's kind of a bummer, but who knows? We'll see we'll see if they can improve, and maybe if they get a competent quarterback in there to take some pressure off the defense, they'll be okay. But don't think that'll be Andy Dalton in week 1.
No, I don't think so. All right, Monday night game, which is weird because there's only one. Usually they have two Monday night games to start the year. I don't know why they changed it, but so we have one. It's the Ravens at the Raiders. The sign open up Ravens -4.5. It's still 4.5. So who do you like in this game?
Yeah, I like the Ravens here a lot. John Harbaugh with extra time is a monster. It's just crazy. He's won 5 straight season openers, and in the last 3, the Ravens have scored at least 38 points, which is just mind-boggling. And they've been like blowout wins. It's not been like back and forth offensive contests. They've just come out and just kicked their opponent in the face, basically. So, I mean, the Raiders, they may be energized to play in front of their home crowd, but the question is, can they keep pace with the Ravens? And I don't think they can. I don't think their run defense is going to be good enough to slow down the Ravens' run game, even without J.K. Dobbins. I think Gus Edwards and Tyson Williams are going to do just fine. And then if you just look at the Ravens' defense is fine. The Raiders' offense, they have some decent players there, but I don't know. They destroyed their offensive line. So they're not going to be as strong running the ball. Derek Carr is going to be under more pressure, where he's not been good under pressure. And they're relying heavily on many recent draft picks, including Henry Ruggs and Brian Edwards, to take the next step forward. That could work out, but they didn't show much as rookies. So they would have to take a pretty big leap to have a chance to really beat the Ravens here. So, you could make a motivational case for the Raiders again because they're playing at home for the first time. But I don't want to count out the crazy guy who loves early season winning and preseason winning enough to sacrifice J.K. Dobbins for an NFL record 20th straight preseason win. Like that's some like insane type of madness in preparation that you got to win preseason games like that. So I'm going to be on the Ravens here for probably a couple units. But yeah, if you like the Raiders, you can convince me why.
I can't convince you why I like the Raiders for the full game. I can maybe convince you why I like them for the first half line. If you remember a couple years ago, they opened up against the Rams at home, and there was so much emotion in that stadium. Like the Raiders, the fans are going nuts. They jumped out to a big lead, and remember, Derek Carr could have made it even a bigger lead if he didn't throw that interception into the end zone. The Raiders were up at halftime, and then they just fell apart in the second half, and they didn't even cover the spread, which is very tilting for me because I had the Raiders in the Super Contest. The Rams ran away with the game. They had a pick, I think it was a pick 6 at the end to make it like a huge win. But the Raiders got out to a huge start. And I feel like two things are happening here, which make me worried about the Ravens. One is what you mentioned about the fans in the stadium. This is the first time the fans are going to be in the stadium in the Las Vegas arena, and just being in Las Vegas, everyone I talked to was like, "Oh, did you hear how hard it is to get a Raiders ticket? It's impossible." Like everyone's saying that. Like there's so much hype for this team, even though I don't think the Raiders are going to be a good team this year. It just seems like everyone in Las Vegas is just dying to see them. I think it's going to be like the biggest, the largest emotional impact of any team we're going to see this week is the Raider fans just going nuts in the Death Star, as they call it. So I think, like, first of all, there's going to be a ton of emotion there. Second factor is that the Ravens play the Chiefs next week, and that's always a big opponent for them. The Ravens just can't beat the Chiefs no matter what they do. And I think they're going to, like, even if they're focused for this game, like they're still going to have to prepare for the Chiefs next week because they really need more preparation to beat a team they just never beat. So I think they could overlook the Raiders a little bit. You make a good point, though, with John Harbaugh being nuts and like wanting to win preseason games. So I don't think the Ravens will completely overlook the Raiders, but I do think the Raiders are come out to a good start. They always play well early because Greg Olson, their great offensive coordinator, he schemes really well to start the game, and it seems like the Raiders always score an opening touchdown on their first drive. And I think the Raiders have a good chance of winning this game at halftime. But I think what ultimately happens is just the talent of these teams take over. The Raiders are going to have no answer from Lamar Jackson at all, or basically anyone on the Ravens offense. Like, I think like Mark Andrews could have a huge game. Gus Edwards could have a great game in the second half. I think the Ravens will ultimately win and cover, but I think it'll look dicey for a while, and I would take the Raiders in the first half.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. And I would recommend the over point total for the Ravens and possibly for the game. Ravens, I think over point total is 27.5, just because Harbaugh is just going to keep laying it down. Like the Ravens might hit the over by themselves at 51. Like I could see that happening. But yeah, no, you bring up good points. And the Chiefs look ahead was something that worried me a bit. That knocked my unit count down a little bit to the 1-2 range. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, the talent discrepancy, like you said, is it's too great between the two sides. Baltimore has to pull this out. Now, if this was like a week 2 thing and Harbaugh didn't have the extra time to prepare and it was the Raiders home opener, then I would maybe feel a little different about this. But with that extra time is the great equalizer.
Yeah, it seems like the Raiders always fade, like whether it's a full game or like the whole season. It seems like they always start well and then they always like collapse at the end. So yeah, I would like I said, I would take the Ravens, but if you're looking to bet the Raiders, I think I would only do it in the first half. I don't think I would do it for the full game here. So before we end this broadcast, we do Survivor. I don't know if you're prepared for this or have a team. I just did it like a couple hours beforehand. So I'll talk. You can maybe like think about what your team is going to be. I'm going to take the 49ers. I know that I hate picking road teams. But it just seems like I would be shocked if they lose to the Lions, like even more so than the Colts versus the Jaguars last year. You know, with that game, it was more of an anti-Jaguars play than the Colts. Like I still thought the Colts are a good team, but I thought the Jaguars are going to go winless, and they almost did. It was just that one game they won. But this time, it's both. It's the Lions being one of the worst teams in the NFL. The 49ers are one of the best teams in the NFL. I trust Kyle Shanahan, especially with extra time to prepare. The Niners play well in these East Coast games, and they're so much better than the Lions. So I would have a tough time seeing the Niners lose. So the Niners are my Week 1 Survivor pick. I would also consider the Rams. They're at home at least, but I think you can get the Rams in a better situation otherwise, even though playing Andy Dalton is a great situation. So I don't know if you had any thoughts on Survivor this week.
Yeah, I would go with one of those two NFC West teams, and I probably would lean San Francisco just because I think the Lions are the weaker competition. And for every reason you said, like San Francisco is going to be very good this year. They're healthy right now too, so they should be in good shape. I'd be stunned if they lost that game. And obviously the case for the Rams, as we discussed earlier, it's Andy Dalton in prime time. The Rams are at home. They have better defense. They have better offense. So they kind of check off all the boxes. So I'd be comfortable with either of those two. I'll stick with the 49ers and you right now. I'm sure we'll deviate at some point during the season when I inevitably forget who I've picked so far in Survivor if we're eliminated early again, which hopefully this time we won't be.
Yeah, hopefully not. I don't think we will be. And I'll make sure you don't forget who you're picking, because I will make this cool banner for you in real time. So you will not forget who you picked this year. One thing I want to get to is teasing the NFL says I'm risking it with Carolina in Survivor. Do not pick Carolina in Survivor. It is not worth the risk. They're my avoid team this week for Survivor. Everyone's going to be picking them. They're favored by almost a touchdown. Like 80% of the money is on Carolina. I think it looks like 75% of betting actions on Carolina right now. Everyone's going to be picking Carolina, who's not taking the Niners or the Rams. They could lose outright to the Jets. Don't bet on Sam Darnold to win Survivor, because it seems like an anti-Jets pick, really. And I think the Jets are going to be better this year. In fact, they could be better than Carolina for all we know. I would not take the Panthers at all in Survivor.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I feel like don't take a bad team early. I used to do that when I was younger, and you'd always end up in these like trouble situations where you're like, all right, I'm saving the good teams for later, and you're like, all right, well now I'm out in week 2. That's great. Like, take the risks later in the year when you have to.
Yeah. This one says to pick Tampa easy. Tampa, I think Tampa's a good play. They're definitely in my top five. This Packers, this is a neutral site game, so it's kind of tricky. I think there are better plays than the Packers this week, but if you want to go Packers, that's fine. So like all those are good. I just definitely would not pick the Panthers. I know Tony says the Jets defense are going to hold him back, and yeah, you're right. But the Panthers are going to be held back by Sam Darnold. He could definitely throw this game away. I would not be surprised if the Jets win. I would be surprised if the Lions lost to the 49ers. And I know, like I said, there are week one upsets every year. It just seems like the Niners are way too good and the Lions are way too bad. It's not like Colts Jaguars last year. So I'd be shocked. But then again, I could be talking to you in 7 days and we're like, oh my God, I can't believe the Lions beat the Niners. I don't think it'll happen though.
Yeah, I don't either, but we'll see. There's always something that unpredictably happens in week one.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that's it for this week. I'm glad we were able to do the week one NFL picks. I think we agreed on pretty much everything. Some minor disagreements. The one big disagreement we had was Patriots Dolphins. We'll see what happens, but it's not like you had more conviction on this game than I did. And I'm not going to bet this game. You were going to bet the Patriots. So if you're going to listen to anyone about the game, I would trust your opinion on it. Like I said, it's not going to be any sort of bet for me.
And I'll wear a Dolphins hat next week if I get that one wrong. I have a Dolphins hat somewhere around here, so I'll find it.
All right, sounds good. Do you have anything to plug?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Kamenker. I'm working on a bunch of stuff for the NFL season. I've got best bets content coming out at Sporting News either tomorrow or the day after. I'm not sure which day. I've done most of the legwork on it, though, so there'll be plenty of stats and trends in there. I'll share it on Twitter. So if you follow me at Jacob Kamenker, you'll see all my latest work there.
All right, sounds good. I'm at walterfootball.com. We have our updated picks throughout the week. As I always say, Saturday is the big day because the Friday injury report is so important. Charlie has great NFL draft content as usual. Updated big board coming tomorrow. Updated mock draft on Friday. My mock draft is going to be updated tomorrow. And we're going to have fantasy rankings, of course. Once again, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. The links to the merch store is in the description, so check that out. But yeah, let's have a great week one. I'm glad the season's back, and I will talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good. Talk to you then.
All right, bye.